All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into fasting when it comes to your thyroid hormones or healing after thyroidectomy. This one thing will destroy your hormones long term, not just your thyroid hormones, your adrenal hormones, and your sex hormones. Now, I have worked with thousands of people in many different capacities. I've worked with men as well when I still saw men in the beginning of my career. And I have worked one on one, I've worked in group settings, I've done challenges. I've done fasting with so many different people with so many different walks of life that have come to see me because of an underlying hormone issue. I think there's some incredible benefits to fasting. I think when used appropriately, I mean, I have seen it. I've seen it not only in my own health, but in people that I've walked with, see some incredible things happen. But as fasting has gained in popularity, a lot of people, when they show up to like my office or virtually, and I look at how they're doing fasting, there are so many red flags. There's so many issues that really my first step with them is to get them to stop fasting until they get it right. And then we get them back on fasting. So the number one thing, let's go jump into it. The number one thing that you might be doing wrong is not appropriately refeeding. Not appropriately refeeding. And this, I've seen it be an issue across the board with men and women, but holy moly, has it been an even bigger problem for women? It's this idea of nourishing themselves with enough calories, protein, and fat. And that's a really big deal because let's take a step back and why are you fasting? Why are you fasting? The goal is to create, well, there's many different benefits to fasting. But one of the big, most powerful ones is autophagy. The idea that the body, this innate intelligence, that's why I love fasting. I love fasting because you might change your diet and what ends up happening when you change your diet is a lot of people start thinking, oh, it's the diet that made me lose weight. It's the diet that made things, get better in my body. It's not the diet. It's this incredible innate intelligence, this ability to heal that's already in your body that when you gave it the right nutrients, it could do what it was created to do. The fasting shows that in the absence of food, supplements, everything, you remove all of it. What is your body doing? It's healing. It's cleaning out cells. It's repairing the mitochondria. It is breaking down and cleaning out house. And that's incredible. That's incredible for overall health, longevity, prevention of diseases. It is a beautiful thing. But if we are going to go in and we're going to clean house, we're breaking down, what should come after that? If there's a condemned building and I want to go and make something of this building, I'm going to have to tear down that building. But I've got to repair that building. I got to build it back up again. And so many women are fasting without a rebuilding period. If there's going to be autophagy, there has to be mTOR, which is very, very heavily protein driven. That's it. You're fasting too long, too often, and not having that build up phase. And the body is intelligent. The body is smart. Fasting is a good stressor on the body. It's a good stressor. If you Google, is fasting bad for those that have thyroid issues? You're going to find plenty of articles and plenty of blogs saying you should not fast if you have thyroid hormone issues. And those articles and blogs, they've got it wrong. They've got it wrong. The idea is we have seen studies that show, these studies will show that going into fasting will decrease T4 to T3 conversion, right? Which, okay, if T4 to T3 conversion is decreased, we know T3 is the active hormone that binds to the cell and allows your body to feel good. Well, man, imagine if you already have low conversion, if you already have a problem there, and then you go into fasting and it makes that same issue keep on going even more. Right off the top of your head, you'd think, oh, maybe it's bad. But it's not that simple. These studies show that T4 to T3 conversion decreases, but it doesn't say it's wrong. It says this is just what happens. But what I found over and over again, and I will tell you this, years ago, I'm gonna admit it. I'm a doctor that can admit she was wrong. Years ago, I was very cautious with having my Hashimoto's, hypothyroid, healing after thyroidectomy if their meds weren't right. I was very cautious to have them fast. And I had someone come in that was fasting and they were hypothyroid. And they, for the first time, they started losing weight. Their metabolism was getting better. Like they were seeing all these really great benefits. So I took a step back and I went back to that literature and I said, wait a minute, these studies are saying that this happens, but it doesn't mean it's a bad thing, right? The body's going to conserve energy. If you do not need more T3, your body is going to decrease that. A decrease of T3 is not a bad thing. When you are fasting, your body has now shifted into priority. It has shifted. You don't have all this food that you're digesting and breaking down, and you need to move throughout your digestive system. Not only that, one of the biggest things that causes an increase, a significant increase in the modern day world is consuming tons of carbs as well. Like that T4 to T3, it's insulin dependent, it's carbs, it affects it. But when you eliminate that, there's not as much of a need for T3. Just because there is a decrease in conversion does not mean it's a bad thing. Okay? But the problem is that the body does that to conserve energy. It's like, boom, we're under this stressor, we're fasting. Short term, your body can go right back into converting that T4 into T3, right back into that. But what ends up happening if you're fasting too long without any refeed? What are some examples? Women that do one meal a day for weeks. I am not behind that. Not at all. Because that one meal a day, I would bet anything you're not getting enough calories, you're not getting enough protein and fat. But if you're doing weeks of that, if you are doing just an intermittent fast, but you're not getting enough calories in throughout the day. Now, I want you to view it as this. When I talk about calories, when I teach about macros, what I am more talking about is just nourishing your body, loving on your body in a way that you're giving it what it needs, not just energy wise, but in the building blocks. Protein is so important. We're going to do a whole episode on protein, but it's so important that if you are fasting, when you break your fast in your eating window, that you're eating enough. And what I find is that there's a few things that happen with women that I have seen is that we're just used to rushing, going. We have trained our hormones like leptin and ghrelin, which are the hormones that let us know if we're full, if we're hungry. We go and we've trained our bodies to work off of little nutrients, little nourishment. And we think we can do that. We think we can little snack here and there, but that is not correct. That's not healthy and it's not nourishing to our bodies. We have to consume enough protein and fat to support our hormones. We have to. And so what I found is when, women come in and they're fasting, but they're not eating enough protein and fat to rebuild, when they're done fasting, they stay in a very, like their body is in a very restrictive phase. So this temporary decreasing conversion of thyroid hormone now becomes chronic. Now, the longer you go with being so restrictive that you're not giving your body the nutrients it needs, you will see that it's harder and harder for your body to get that T3 levels up. You'll see that reverse T3 being affected. And then eventually what I have seen is then the T4 output goes down. And then that's problematic. Now, for those of you that are on thyroid meds, like if you're very, very dependent on thyroid meds, after healing after thyroidectomy, it can, if you do that chronically, you can find yourself in a place where it's more difficult to find a balance where you're not feeling hypo one day and then hyper, feeling those symptoms of hypo, the hyper. It's harder to find that balance on thyroid meds. So the biggest takeaway from this that I want you to understand is that if you're going to fast, you have to refeed. And refeed means nourishing your body. It means eating enough calories, eating enough food. And for, oof, I can do a whole video, a whole like episode on just what I have seen through the years, the fear around eating enough food for women. There's so much there emotionally and underlying messages that are just completely wrong that we were told for decades, that there's a lot of like nervousness that if I eat more, I'm going to gain all this weight when that's not the case. The women that I have been able to look at their food diaries and coach them through, if they follow my recommendations, there's this clarity, there's this energy. They start to see the results even more amplified, whether they're fasting or not fasting, whether they're in ketosis or non ketosis. You should be able to diversify how you're eating, what you're eating, and still continue to see these good benefits for your body. If you don't, then there's an issue there that needs to be addressed. So you've got to understand that long-term fasting will cause dysregulation within your thyroid hormones, will make it harder post-thyroidectomy to find a balance, a good balance with your thyroid meds, where you're going to have to decrease and you're going to have to increase and all of that. Now, if you're fasting and refeeding, you're going to see some really great benefits long term, but being too restrictive, too long is not going to be helpful for your hormones.